ingredient that is seasonally grown. The opportunity truly lies on cashew apple.
You know, you brought up some very interesting part of it is imperfection that we tend to love in kitchens. It's like a touch me not because the
waxy residue in the mouth. So it is an acquired taste, I would say. Largely an acquired taste. But considering the fact that, you know, it feels a little exotic, everyone wants to try it. Preparations or irritation in the mouth, things like that. As far as the taste of the fruit, I think it has got a very pulpy, fibrous taste. As I said, it is an acquired taste that if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But largely people eat it because of its exotic nature. And it is a mixture of certain tropical fruits, I would say, maybe mango, strawberry, a little bit of citrusy, a pineapple maybe. You know, the texture also feels a little like a mango. So it's a combination of all these fruits that give it its fundamental taste. So I think...
very interesting. Someone also told me if you have, you know, a little blood sugar, which tends to go high, it tends to spike the basic sugar levels in your body.
Yeah.
So a diabetic should really take care when eating it. But I really don't know how much that is true. I tried it out. It didn't spike out.
No, but
much.
what I heard is like it is good for diabetic patients. So yeah, so
it didn't work.
I really don't know, people. But it works for some.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is basically the taste of the thing. So I'm going to address this now to Shubhra. We're saying cashew apple. What do we call it in Konkani?
Thank you for having me here. So cashew apple we call cashew. Not
all right. Someone told me it is muthe. Is it muthe? Yeah, you've heard that?
No, I.
Okay, mutto. Okay. I'm just learning. Actually, the first time even I say cashew apple. So it tends to happen. Now we're talking about cooking a cashew apple, but is there any chance of having it raw?
In a form of niro, and we like I've made nirache porridge. You know, then you can kind of cook that, but not anything about
not that you have done it in your culinary thing. All right. Some people perhaps maybe later on when we talk about inspired food, we can think of how maybe it can be used raw. But in traditional, as of now, I think we cooked it most of the time. Yeah. All right. So now we come to Salvita, if I'm not mistaken. Salvita, I'm talking now, she spoke about the juice. So the juice. Anything else from it in your kitchen in the past?
Yes. Hello, thank you for having me here. And in fact, the first extract, that is niro, our grandmas would give it to us as in the form of cooler that would cool the body and also help in aid recovery during measles or chicken pox. Yes, we would have that. Yes.
So just as the raw form, you would have it as a
Vinegar.
thing.
Yes.
Besides that, more in for the grown-ups, was it used in any other thing for medicine?
Yes. Mainly, especially for cold, it was warmed, gently warmed with cloves and pepper, and given as a soothing.
So we didn't need
remedy.
doctors in the past. You
Yes.
had something for
Home kitchen.
everything.
Yes.
All right. Now for kitchen use, was the juice used for anything?
Oh yes, vinegar.
Oh,
It
you
was
used to
a
make
staple.
vinegar.
Yes, staple.
All right, that's a very
homes.
interesting
Yes.
thing. I don't see it nowadays.
Yes,
So in the
it was.
past, they would do vinegar in your
Vinegar.
community.
Yes.
Now the interesting part here is we have got communities of different kitchens, which we're going to talk about, because all of us don't have the same thing, and that is the beauty of Goan food. Because every community has worked on, besides today what the modern touch is coming with, modern or inspired. So I am coming very clearly again to Sapna after Salvita spoke about traditional medicine. In your community, which is I think in Gaud Saraswat Brahmin community, you all used to select ingredients for health mostly and used to prepare food. Can you share some nutritional aspects of the cashew apple?
Nutritional aspects I could share, but I would like to share something very interesting.
Okay.
Going by what Savita said. I remember I was very young when I got married. So the first time I went to meet my husband's family, I was a bundle of nerves. So my mother gave me a little bit of kazu, so baby, and it actually calmed my nerves. So I'm totally in love with this fruit and whatever it means to me. So your question was
the health benefits.
the health benefits. I think it is very rich in vitamin C,
Uh-huh.
and iron, magnesium, and they say it's very good for skin health and hair as well. The fruit per se.
So it has a lot of positive things when it comes to health,
Yes.
but yet the fruit is so underutilized when we talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really.
Yeah, but it's a very seasonal fruit. So whenever it is in season, I think we completely use it
In your
to the
kitchen.
full. Yeah,
Alright,
fullest.
okay.
Like in the restaurant itself, I make so many dishes of using the cashew
Oh, lovely.
apple. So it's
I'm gonna-
seasonal, so people do love to
I'm
try
going to
it.
invite myself this.
Please do.
Because the next question again to Shubhra is, what time should I invite myself to her kitchen? What time of the year would that be when the cashew? Apple is in bloom.
I think April.
Cashew nuts done for food for moderately cooking. Even I heard that's a W240. Now I have not really delved a lot into this subject, but when it comes to cashew apple, we have not really heard anything like that. So suppose preparing that dish?
I prefer to use the firm ones for my.
Others it become pach.
Yeah, correct.
All right,
Cooking
understandable.
pyjamas.
Prahlad, I've left you out all this time. Now I'm coming back to you, and based on what all these ladies say, now we're coming into serious discussions as a technical person. What ingredients in the whole kitchen would go well with a cashew apple dish?
So, hey, first of all, I just wanted to acknowledge my 3-year-old who's sitting there so nicely and quietly there without making any noise. So, well done, Meera. I'm proud of you. So, to tell you what cashew apple pairs with, cashew apple, the fruit is very amazing. Actually, the juice is very fruity. Like Sapna said, it's got tannins, right? It's got just the right amount of acidity and this natural funk that, the smell that cashew is associated with. So this places it pairs well with so many wide variety of dishes. But I would say the interesting part right now is rather than just looking at what it pairs with within our geographical setting, we have only limited it to that. We need to look at it like we can pair it with a whole bunch of other, control the level of sweetness, and still make it an edible, chewy kind of like a jerky, like meat jerky kind of texture. The applications just skyrocket to a whole different level because then you can use
Instead of a packet of M&Ms for her, you'll be able to give the
yeah, and
cashew.
instead of also using faux meat, which is the trend today, you can use cashew as a very meaty texture. You can use it in so many different ways. I want to congratulate first of all institutions like the Goa Pirates because every time I go there, I find something fascinating that they use nutmeg flowers, they make everything edible. Yesterday at their stall at the Cashew Fest, if some of you get the chance to go see it, they've got so many interesting ingredients that otherwise in fact, we've started experimenting with shirvayo now in the restaurant, right? Why can't we use shirvayo? We can sew this thing into this French cuisine, that's, do some crispy French element in everything. Shirvayo, just fry it and put it. In so many things you can use it. So cashew apple have got great, it's a very, very interesting ingredient. I think every chef should be excited about it.
All right, that sounds very interesting. It's been a holistic view in terms of the cashew apple. I'm going to cut it down to a little very practical ingredients because you all are going to help me out in the next questions. So let's say the things that go tangy: lemon, ginger, salt, cinnamon, cloves, sugar, mint leaves, ghee, fat, pineapple, mango, star anise, coconut, turmeric, hing, jaggery, tamarind. Sometimes if you're going global, things like condensed milk, yogurt, mayonnaise. Now, this is a list based on our chefs. We have a body of chefs who sit and discuss a lot of things. Now, these are the list of ingredients, and I'm sure our grandmothers didn't have anyone to tell us how to, tell them at least how to mix the dishes. So now this part of questions are going to go on to traditional food because we're going to look into our grandmothers' minds and we're going to look at dishes that they prepared and what ingredients you all have learned because recipes have come down over the ages. What are the ingredients? I'm not talking about recipes right now because we're short on time. but just basically list the ingredients that are linked to that particular item. So Sapna, one traditional main course dish that maybe you have learned from your mother or your grandmother where cashew apple was used, and what were the ingredients?
Yeah, largely I think kazuto shark. I'm sure you people will agree with me that kazuto shark is something that has been traditionally prepared in our homes over the years, whether you like it or not, but it has been an integral part of this season. So kazucho shark generally involves, now coming back to the question you had asked, Shubhra, usually the yellow colored fruit is known for its juicy texture. So anytime you need to use it for its juice, the yellow fruit is picked. And if you need to cook, then the reddish colored fruit is used for cooking purpose. Now in the shark, basically we use underripe cashews, whether it is yellow or red. They are cut into chunks and cooked in a coconut gravy, where we just use a little bit of chili and sambar or garam masala. So the cashew fruit is cooked in that coconut gravy, and then it is seasoned with vodio. Essentially, vodio is ashgourd chips that are dried in the sun and used as it's a preservative that we use through the year. So it's the tadka is of this vodio with red chilies and hing asafoetida. So it's cooked into like a semi not too liquidy gravy, and it's savored with pore or chapati also, in addition to rice. So I think that is by far the most popular. Otherwise, in our homes, in my home specifically, my mother has been making kazucho fodi, just fritters of cashew slices that are, you apply masala and then you coat it with rava and then you fry it on a griddle. So that is also a very loved preparation in our home.
All right, so two favorite dishes she managed to bring out. All right, thank you. Would you like to add anything to that, Shubhra? Traditional.
So I've been working a lot with the Kundis lately, the tribes, and one of the traditional, dish that I came across when I visited them was Kazwache chutney, and they actually take the raw cashew and they kind of ujar pasta, like on charcoal. Roasted basically, and then with fresh coconut and tamarind and other things, they make a paste of that.
That's very interesting. Salvita, you in your community, which is a little different, is there something which you all make? Your grandmother's tradition?
Yes. My grandmother would make a wet pickle, which is leather and soaked in brine. And for flavor, she would use vinaigrette and red chilies.
All right, and it used to be
tangy.
kept
Yes,
because
and
April,
preserve
May,
it,
and
yes,
preserve it
preserve it for the
instead
months,
of your fish, for dry fish and all that.
Yes.
All right, now this is a very interesting thing. I'm sure we can pick on one or two more. Can you all think of any more traditional, Prahlad, any traditional that you can think of? Though I got the inspiration coming to you wholesale. They've covered it all. In between there is, between the South, Konkan, and Karnataka, there are a few houses. They call it cashew apple okkari or khasi. But if you really go to see, it is very similar to our sukhes. Their method is slightly different. Now the reason why I'm saying, because they believe it's a traditional dish. And another dish that I can think of in Catholic kitchens is the sorpate.
Yes.
They and this is where I said about the colors, red and yellow. The two colors are put together so that it really looks a very colorful dish. And the masala is very similar. There's a mixture of vinegar, jaggery. Interesting, I could read that out, but they have tamarind, they have red chilies, they have cinnamon, cloves, jeera, pepper, turmeric, garlic. I think a wholesome, full bouquet of vegetables to get it into that flavor. And no meat, just cashew apples. So there have been a lot of traditional preparations, but I'm sure we as the modern chefs can come across with a lot more new ones. So I'm going going to give this to Sangeeta, just a quick dish. And to you all also. Any sweets? We spoke about main course. Your grandmother's worked on anything sweet?
No, not dessert in our
No?
kitchen.
Sapna, anything sweet? Old? No, I don't think so. So now it's going to come to your Prahlad. Anyone inspired? I know you all work a lot on inspired preparations, modern preparations.
With cashew, what we like to do is we like to break the cashew into different components and then sort of construct various things with it. One example would be, you look at the cashew apple. What can you do with the cashew apple? You can play with the texture. Like, someone said cooking it a certain way. We do fermentation also because that also sort of makes kind of partially cooked it. And then we take those ingredients to construct something out of it. That is one. Second thing, the cashew juice. You can either reduce it with your jaggery or your Goan coconut or cashew vinegar. That becomes the second component. Then you can take cashew apple, you can make some kind of a sauce with it. And then we don't make the whole thing as the cashew as a center. It becomes we layer the dish so that you will get the cashew component when you are thinking of a thing. For example, right now at the Cashew Fest, we've got a dish called the basic simple taco. But we have elevated it with, rather than putting the typical salsa which is made with this, we put kazu saso. And we've made it tangy, slightly fermented, not just cutting it, putting it and making a raw thing. But we have, because of natural fermentation, it has cooked, it has given some kind of an umami to it, and that salsa is the elevates the dish. Suddenly it gives depth to the whole thing. Another
so they
dish,
sort of think about those flavors when they are eating.
yeah, rather than that becoming the center, you get that cashew funk, you get that umami coming from the fermentation, but at the same time you're enjoying a taco. So your taco has become a little elevated. So another example I can give you is when we right now we're doing kazu kimchi. Instead of just we do kazu kimchi instead of doing the kimchi with this thing. Now that kimchi is spicy. It's got that sweetness coming from cashew. It's got a earthy character coming from the umami, and then you add that kimchi into various dishes to elevate them.
Beautiful thoughts when it comes to the global aspect. Because the other day somebody was talking to me, they want to talk about how a cashew nut can be made into a cashew butter. And I said,
We're doing cashew butter ice cream also, and there is a Nero ice cream also. We can try all of these things at the stop.
I know you do a lot of experimentation, so thank you for this. I'm going to come now to more local, because we have to talk a little bit about the modern culture. Can you think of one inspired?
Kaswacha poi turned out really amazing, soft and
He ate a lot, he was telling me yesterday at the fair. So
and another one that I experimented for on the 8th, where we had the dinner at Angar, I did the dhanas.
interesting.
So I replaced again because I feel that again dhanas is made of cashew fruit, so it has a very strong smell and taste. So I replaced that again with.
Lovely. I usually only heard about the jackfruit donuts. And,
Yes.
so
it really went on really well. And it turned out really good.
Beautiful. Sapna, can you think of any which is new, innovative?
As Prahlad said, there's something that I try is the cashew apple salsa. So I use again a little underripe cashew fruit, and in my restaurant in Konkani we usually use the traditional stuff. I don't experiment much with other things, but at home I try this and it really works. Cashew apple having a very short shelf life, it restricts what more you can make of it. But I think today, like about these porridge and all, I'll definitely try it, Shubhra, because that sounds very interesting. I've never tried that.
All right, so I'm leaving Salvita to give the icing on the cake because I have actually tasted the dishes that you had tried it and you recently tried it, so that's very big. What are some of the dishes that you can think which is inspired, not done by our grandmothers, but very local?
Yes, I experimented cashew apple vindaloo, which was really good with vindaloo masala, red chilies and all the spices. The tip is to cut a cashew apple and leave it for some time with salt and drain the water out and then use it.
Because
And the
the
peppers.
taste, that is something which most people do locally.
Yes.
All right.
And another dish is, like I've yet to name it, it's a mixture of
We'll ask them to name it after that, yes?
Kaldin masala and a little reshad masala. It was really lovely. I added also raw mango to it.
Pardo.
Pardo.
Yes, so it
was
gave you
good.
a very tangy
Yes.
feel. That was very two interesting dishes, I think. And you were going to try out the shakuti, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
yet done.
It's not
It's under wraps still now.
Yes.
But anyway, I guess it is things like this which maybe bring out a creative spirit in everyone. And so far, I think we've been on time. We've managed to finish it in 35 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to leave it open to the audience to ask any questions that they would like to when it comes to your traditional, if you all have heard of any which are not covered, new inspired preparations, which I'm sure they'll be able to help, and it will be another plus point in terms of our kitchens. Anybody?
I think my voice is quite. Hello, thank you. My name is Reva Sansgiri and I have my Shivrag by Reva's recipes and I also experiment. You said traditional sweet that my great grandmother used to make surnari, and the surnari is basically with curd. So instead of that, she used to, and all of us brought up in Maharashtra, not in Goa. So we call ourselves Mumbaikar Goans. So we used to get the mutte, that cashew apple. She used to squeeze it and take out the. We never used to get Nero. Nero I started getting and tested here once I shipped it. So with that, and exactly the recipe what we have for surnari, the same, instead of curd, you use this squeezed cashew apple juice or Nero, you get it here.
Oh, lovely.
So,
it's more like a halwa or a pulpy?
no, surnari is like a pole, what she said.
Okay.
It's all chana dal, little urad dal, methi, आमचे उकडे तांदूळ.
So it's one of the older recipes.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
very,
lovely.
very.
That's an interesting recipe. No, don't you?
So, no, I just wanted to add to the lady. Say, this is what I mean. I think that if rather than thinking of a recipe that somebody has passed down or whatever, let's look at cashew as an ingredient and break it into its component. Like when she said she's using it for the porridge, she's using it for some other fermented, something that requires either a fermented ingredient like a dahi or so when we look at